principal purpose of the club shall be to promote sailing in all its forms,
to form a social nucleus with activities for people primarily interested in sailing,
to develop and maintain active relationships with other sailing organizations,
to promote racing and cruising for pure enjoyment,
to promote safety on the waterways,
and to foster a spirit of good fellowship and helpfulness.
Before Davis Island was developed in the 1930s, the Newport Navy was a group of sailors that tied up along Bayshore and sailed in Hillsborough Bay.
David Paul Davis had a grand vision in 1924 to develop the islands. They started as a group of silt islands and began to take shape as dredging continued through 1926. By mid-1926, the steam was running out of Florida's real estate boom. Davis needed a bailout, and Peter O'Knight, the current president of Tampa Electric Company, took over. They kept the dredges pumping, and a permanent bridge to the mainland was completed in the years to come.
One of the stunts to publicize Davis Island involved a woman water skier transferring to an airplane in Hillsborough Bay. The seaplane basin became the home of an airline stop between Tampa and St. Pete that was started by Tony Janis in 1914, which was the first scheduled airline flight in the country.
The Tampa Sailing Squadron was formed in 1933. This charter that was filed on November the 15th of that year, this was the beginning of what is now known as Davis Island Yacht Club. Initially, the sailing squadron would meet in the Knight and Wall Company's boardroom, later at the Marisol Hotel, and then in a house that was relocated from the Davis Island Tennis Club to Marjorie Park.
We have limited pictures from the 1930s, but minutes from their board meetings allow us to get a glimpse of what it was like to be a member of the Tampa Sailing Squadron in this era. Although these records show that the group was organized and had serious meetings, it was a great balance of humor and fun mixed in.
David Linebaugh reported in 1935 for the race committee and gave an update on the first ever Egmont Key race, which is now the oldest running regatta in the Bay Area.
May 8, 1935, the Entertainment Committee report. Cruise to Bunce's Pass, very successful. 4 boats attended, approximately 18 present. Ball game made the old men ancient and the young old. No drunks. Cost $5.17. Treasurer authorized to pay costs.
June 1935. Under new business, a motion was made and passed to start the Paso Grill Anchors Up race. At the warning signal, all boats were to be anchored with sails furled and cruise below. Remember the Royal Gaboon race?
June 28, 1935. The Commodore received information from the Cuban Tourist Commission that provided information about regulations for foreign pleasure craft in preparation for the St. Pete to Havana race.
In November of 35, a motion passed to limit cost of the banquet to 75 cents per person, with members to pay 50 cents each and 25 cents per person to be paid out of the club treasury. In January of 36, the nominating committee reported before the annual meeting. They nominated the Commodore, W.R. Turner. Their comment was, "We feel that no one is more fit for this office than Mr. Turner. No member has taken a more wholehearted interest in the club, nor contributed more materially to the success of our various enterprises during the past year. Also, it has been recently determined that Mr. Turner wears a yachting cap in a very coy manner."
Vice Commodore Francis Bidwell. Mr. Bidwell, because he and Pieces of 8 have really been places. Mr. Bidwell, we understand, has an aversion to work, so should be very capable to fill this position. Secretary Lyle Vernier. Mr. Vernier was selected because he has a stenographer at his disposal and will have no excuse for not working. We also feel that Mr. Vernier's unique humor should be preserved for future members, and he, as secretary, would have no difficulty in recording this humor. Treasurer W.E. Dow, because Willie is an excelled collector, and that is what this club needs after McBride. Fleet Captain Bobby Davis. The committee feels that Bobby will continue to contribute much to the success of the club in this position and to the attention of blondes. And last but not least, just more behind than before, we nominate Tomato Face Houlihan for Rear Admiral, wrong end 2. March 11, 1936, Treasurer W.E. Dow moved that he be appointed a committee of one to select a second-place trophy for the winner of that position in the Egmont Key Race, the trophy to be the permanent possession of the winner each year. On behalf of Knight and Wall Company, Houston Wall agreed to furnish a gallon of paint each year for the winner of the third place of the Egmont Key Race.
January of 41, the annual meeting, a motion was made to change the name to the Davis Island Yacht Club. In December of 41, a motion was made and passed to hold the annual banquet at the Marisol Hotel and invite ladies.
September 24th, 1942, during a special meeting, a motion was made that on account of the large number of club members who were now serving in the armed forces of the nation, and the fact that the club building and property was being offered to the Coast Guard for their use during the war, that no further dues would be collected during the period of emergency.
This was the last meeting until January the 9th of 46, when 25 members came to a special meeting to make plans to reorganize, and they anticipated there were about 56 members back in town after the war. The leaders of the club wasted no time getting operations back up and running after the war.
The newsletter in 1941 was called Thar She Blows. Dudley Sansbury and Salty Saul Fleischman announcing the start of the Egmont Key Race. And it made the front page of the Tampa Tribune.
The Peter O. Knight was featured on a postcard.
Beginning in 1946, DIYC sponsored an annual race and cruise from Tampa to Fort Myers. This often combined sailboat racing with powerboat cruising.
In the late 40s and 50s, Davis Island Yacht Club began their plans to establish a new yacht club basin at the southern point of Davis Island.
This aerial view taken in 1953 shows the basin before any docks or clubhouse was ever built. The Bradenton race in 1951 proves that light air races in October are nothing new.
In February of 51, Bill Houlihan and his wife worked on their boat at the annual Gasparilla Regatta to be held at the Tampa Yacht Club.
In 1954, Commodore Bobby C. Davis and his wife were invited to the opening and dedication of the Sunshine Skyway, the original Sunshine Skyway.
A new 175-foot dock was built with the Peter O. Knight Airport in the background.
As a testament to our long-lived do-it-yourself spirit, the article states that the best part of the story is the members themselves built the dock, and they did a good job of it. The club asked for bids on the job, which came to about $5,000, so they decided they could do the work themselves in their spare time.
This dock, which was the original inboard end of Sea Dock, was actively used by the Lightning fleet.
A 1956 sketch showed plans for today's B-Dock.
Drawings for the new club were developed with construction beginning in '56.
On the original clubhouse drawings, the men's and women's restrooms were comically labeled as Nag and Stag.
The initial building committee made up of Bruce Robbins, Ed Nelson, and Bill Houlihan. Bruce Robbins, the owner and president of Robbins Lumber Company, guess where the material came from? All the lumber for the new clubhouse.
The financing of the new club was done through bonds. To join the club, each member was required to purchase 3 bonds at a value of $100 each. Shortly after construction was complete, the north porch was enclosed for a new bar.
The new clubhouse was publicized quite a bit in the papers. Davis Island Yacht Club attracted many large-scale regattas, such as the Windmill Nationals.
In the 1950s, the Houston Wall Trophy was awarded for the winner of the Egmont Key Race. A 1960s article shows how the DIYC leaders always had an eye on expansion.
In '62, the fence at the entrance was built. Newspaper clippings show how the club was utilized for many social events.
This aerial photograph in 1966 shows DIYC buzzing with activity during a regatta.
In 1967, the dedication was held for the bridge onto Davis Island. The late '60s saw many sailing regattas at the new clubhouse.
The bar went through several transformations over the years and had a life of its own. It survived good times, bad times, and many stories that stretched the truth, some stories that were flat out lies, and it even suffered from a gunshot wound.
Through the '70s and '80s, the club continued to promote sailing through its regattas, social activities, and member participation in area events.
In the 1980s, the kitchen in the clubhouse was run by volunteers. This photo shows a group of members preparing the Egmont Key Race brunch.
The Guardian, our club launch, and race committee boat was built by members and launched on August 31, 1983.
In 1984, DIYC hosted a classic boat show and regatta as part of its 50-year celebration. There was a no-name storm in March of 1993, followed by another storm in the late 90s.
In the 90s, sailing hit a high point for club activities.
In 1994, A-Dock was expanded. The dance floor was added, and that flooring came from the YMCA, thanks to Bob Gilbertson. It was one of their old aerobics floors.
In 1999, members raised the new flagpole.
Designed by the members, by the way. The last 10 years are most remembered for the construction of the new clubhouse. As a condition of renewal of our lease with the city of Tampa, we were required to replace the old clubhouse.